I wake up every morning at 6 o'clock sharp, no matter if I have plans for the day or not. It's a rhythm ingrained in me over 4 decades of service at Gulf Petroleum, and even in retirement, it clings to me like an old habit. My house on Lakeside Avenue, a stately 2-story with white columns and a wraparound veranda, echoes with a silence that, on some days, feels louder than the roar of the oil rigs I once stood atop. Getting out of bed is slower now. My 77-year-old joints protest. Every movement, each creak a reminder of years I've carried with me. The bedroom I once shared with Eleanor feels more cavernous these days, no matter the fine mahogany furniture or the neatly hung photographs that mark our life together. She's gone, and the space left behind isn't just physical. Downstairs, I start the coffee maker. It's one of the only modern conveniences I've made peace with. The rest of the house is solid and enduring like me. I bought this home in the mid-'80s after a promotion to senior engineer. Eleanor had insisted we move to a better neighborhood so our daughter Olivia could attend the prestigious school nearby. Always thoughtful of image, that woman. Far more than I ever was. With coffee in hand, I step onto the veranda. The lawn, meticulously trimmed and edged, is thanks to Raymond, who comes by twice a week. Our neighborhood is filled with homes like mine, built not with flash but with steady, honest work. We're men who earned our way with calloused hands and long hours, not social polish or designer clothes. "Good morning, Mr. Landry," calls Beverly Watkins, the judge's widow, as she jogs past. I raise my hand in greeting. It's good to be seen. Even better to be respected. After breakfast, I sift through the mail. Bills, catalogs, more junk until I notice one envelope, heavy stock and embossed lettering. A dinner invitation. From Olivia. That's unusual. In recent years, our conversations have dwindled to brief exchanges during Christmas or Father's Day. I glance up at her photo on the mantel, a smiling teenager in her prom dress. Blonde like her mother, eyes bright with anticipation. She's 38 now, but in my heart, she's still that girl poised on the edge of womanhood. We began to drift apart when she left for college. She came back polished, sharp-eyed, and suddenly judgmental of the life we'd built. Eleanor was still with us then, and it hurt her deeply to watch Olivia turn away from her roots. "Daddy, you need to update your wardrobe," she once said with a wrinkle of her nose, pointing to the suits I'd worn for decades. And then came that Christmas she brought a boyfriend from Wall Street, a slick fellow who looked around our cozy living room and commented, "For this price, you could buy something far more modern downtown." I bit my tongue. Eleanor's hand found mine under the table, trembling. That moment told me I was already losing my daughter. When Eleanor passed 10 years ago, the space between Olivia and me grew into a chasm. She came to the funeral, stayed 3 days, then left. "Dad, you've got to move on," she'd said, already half out the door. "You should consider selling the house, maybe move into that new retirement condo." But how could I explain? This house isn't just wood and nails, it's the pages of my life, written in every floorboard groan and every worn step on the staircase. It's Eleanor. It's me. To keep myself grounded, I stayed busy. At first, I mentored junior engineers, then helped veterans in the oil industry. 3 times a week, I meet old friends at the club. Some are still high up in companies. Others, like me, are retired but still respected. Howard Baker, former CTO and now board member of Kinjin Energy, often shakes his head and says, "Landry, you wouldn't believe these young techies never been on a rig in their lives." I chuckle. We get it. There's a kind of wisdom that only comes with time, grit, and oil-stained gloves. The phone rings. "Dad, did you get the invitation?" "Olivia." "Yes," I say. "Just read it. You'll come, right? It's important." "Her." Voice carries that tone I know too well, like when she was a teenager asking for the car keys, but pretending it was just a casual favor. Of course, I reply. Something going on? A pause. Then, I'm getting married, Daddy. I should feel joy. But instead, a quiet unease settles in. Congratulations, I say after a beat. Who's the lucky man? Camden Price. He's the director of development at Axiom Marketing. We met at a business conference in Houston. He's amazing, Dad, successful, driven, knows everyone worth knowing. As she rattles off his accolades, something gnaws at me. Not once does she mention kindness, love, or integrity. Sounds impressive, I say cautiously. I'd like to meet him. That's what Saturday's for. Oh, and Dad, wear that blue suit I gave you for Christmas, and maybe trim your hair? I run a hand through my silver hair, still longer than most men my age keep it. Are you embarrassed by me, Olivia? What? No, it's just Camden's very detail-oriented. First impressions matter to him. I sigh in my day a man's. Character said more than his haircut. All right, I'll get a trim. Thanks, Dad. See you Saturday. She hangs up, leaving me with a dial tone and an unfamiliar feeling of dread. Saturday arrives sooner than expected. I put on the untouched suit. It's too sleek, too modern for my taste. But I made a promise. Lakeview is upscale, all chrome, glass, and high ceilings. Olivia and her fiancé are already seated. She looks stunning, radiant in a cream dress, with her hair pinned just so. Beside her is a sharply dressed man, maybe in his 40s, with slicked back hair and a practiced smile. Daddy. Olivia stands and kisses me on the cheek. This is Camden. Mr. Landry. He offers a firm handshake, textbook perfect. I've heard a lot about you. Nice to meet you, I reply, taking my seat across from them. Dinner moves along. Strangely, Camden talks a lot. Mostly about himself, his networking, his successes. But I can't find the person behind the words. What does your company actually do? I ask during a lull. We craft perception, he says, as if he's explaining it to a child. In today's world, image is everything. We help our clients appear more powerful than they are. I glance at Olivia. She beams at him like he's made of gold. My stomach turns. Interesting, I say flatly. In engineering, reality still trumps image. Lives depend on it. Camden chuckles. Old school thinking, Mr. Landry. Even engineering. Firms rebrand now. Your old company did. New logo and everything. Didn't make the oil any cleaner. I mutter. Olivia gives me a sharp look. Camden laughs, but his eyes are cold. That's why I wanted to meet you. Olivia said you're very traditional. I nod. When's the wedding? In 3 months, Olivia chimes in, at the Magnolia Country Club. Camden knows the owner. We got a deal. And the honeymoon? I ask. We're thinking Maldives, Camden adds. Or maybe a yacht in the Mediterranean. Depends on the budget. His tone shifts subtly. I know where this is headed. Sounds pricey. I say. Olivia fusses with her hair. Dad, we actually hope to talk to you about that. I stay silent, waiting. We thought you could give us our wedding gift in the form of paying for the honeymoon, Camden says smoothly. Olivia said you're doing quite well financially. It's the confidence in his voice that irks me most, as if he's already counted my money. I'll think about it. I reply evenly. Olivia leans in. Dad, I know Mom always said that money was for my future. Ah, so now we're invoking Eleanor. Yes, I say. She wanted you to be happy. There's more I could say, but I don't. Not yet. If the evening passes in a strange tension. Camden keeps talking about himself, sometimes condescendingly in my career, but clearly not listening to the answers. Olivia looks at him with such adoration that I feel scared for her. When we say goodbye in the parking lot, Camden. shakes my hand firmly. It was nice to meet you, Mr. Landry. I hope you'll support Olivia at this important time in her life. There's a thread hidden in his words that I understand well. Either I pay for their honeymoon or risk losing the last crumbs of my relationship with my daughter. Olivia wraps her arms around me. He's Gret, isn't he? She whispers. I can't bring myself to lie, so I just pat here on the back. The important thing is that you're happy. At home, I sit in my study for a long time looking at old photographs. Eleanor with little Olivia in her arms. Olivia on her first bicycle with a broken knee, but happy. Me on an oil rig, young and full of energy. Somewhere between those pictures. And today, something went wrong. My daughter has turned into someone for whom outward gloss and social status are more important than anything else. And now she's about to commit her life to a man who seems to embody all the qualities I consider empty and meaningless. But what can I do? She's a grown woman who has made her choice. If I refuse to pay for their honeymoon, she'll just drift further away from me. And if I do, I'll feel complicit in what I think was a mistake. I close the photoalbum and sigh heavily. Maybe I'm wrong about Camden Price. Perhaps behind that facade is a decent man who will make my daughter happy. But then why does the inner voice that has never let me down scream danger? After I met Camden, life spun at an unbelievable pace. Olivia called almost every day, not to talk to me, but to tell me the latest news about the wedding preparations. I didn't feel like the father of the bride, but more like a spectator in an expensive play. Dad, we booked the Magnolia. Can you believe it? In the high season, she excitedly informed me one morning. Usually there's a year-long waiting list, but Camden has connections. That's wonderful, I replied, trying to share her enthusiasm. How many guests are you planning to invite? About 250 people, Camden insisted. He says it's a great networking opportunity. I frowned, holding the phone to my ear. Networking at my own wedding. Do you know all these people, Olivia? A short pause followed. Not all of them. A lot of them are Camden business associates and potential clients. But it's important for our future, Dad. I remembered my wedding to Eleanor. A small church, only 50 people. The closest family and friends. A modest reception at her parents' house. A dress she made with her mother's help. No networking, just love and a desire tobed together. Dad, are you still here? Olivia's voice brought me back to reality. Yeah, I'm sorry. I've been thinking. What about the honeymoon? Have AO decided on a place? Yes. Her voice was filled with enthusiasm again. We wissen the Maldives. Camden says it's the hottest trend right now. 12 days in a villa on the water with a private butler. I emailed you the calculations. I sighed. My email was used mostly for bills and newsletters, but for my daughter's sake, I'd learned to check it regularly. Okay, I'll look at it, I replied. Later, when I opened the email, I nearly choked on my coffee when I saw the total. A 5-digit number for 12 days of vacation. You could buy a nice house for that kind of money in my day. But what can you do if it's the price of maintaining a relationship with my only daughter? I'll have to pay it. I had savings from years of work. I had always lived within my means, avoided needless spending, and invested wisely. I had money. But the very thought of paying for a luxurious vacation for a man I deeply disliked caused an inner protest. A week later, Olivia invited me to a pre-wedding cocktail party at the Magnolia Country Club. It was the first official event before the wedding where the couple's closest friends and family were to gather. Magnolia turned out to be exactly what I envisioned, a huge colonial-style estate rounded by immaculate lawns and old-growth trees. Everything about the place screamed money and status, from the marble columns at the entrance to the livery of the staff. As I parked my Buick among the Mercedes and BMWs, I felt out of place despite my decent suit and Omega watch, a gift from the company for 30 years of service. It was crowded and noisy inside. I noticed Olivia Attance. She was standing in the center of a group of young people talking excitedly about something. Camden stood next to her, his arm around her waist in a possessive gesture, radiant in his perfectly fitting tuxedo. "Ah, Mr. Landry." He spotted me and waved Hisham without moving from his seat. I walked toward them, feeling the appraising stares of those around me. "Daddy," Olivia hugged me. "I'm glad you could make it. This is Veronica and Pierce, our friends. From the yacht club." I shook hands with the young people who looked at me with polite indifference. "Olivia told me you worked in the oil industry." Pierce asked, clearly trying to make small talk. "Yes, 43 years at Gulf Petroleum." "How interesting," Veronica said without interest in her voice. "And my father is on the board of directors of Tech Oil." I nodded. "I know that company. Good technical department." I guess Veronica shrugged. "He's more interested in the financial side." Camden deftly turned the conversation to the upcoming charity ball, to which I realized everyone was invited except me. I took the moment to retire to the bar, where I ordered a whiskey on the rocks. "A double Glenlivet, please," said a woman's voice. Next to me, I turned and saw an elegant woman of about 45 with a short haircut and shrewd eyes. "Rough day?" I asked as the bartender poured her a whiskey. "More like heavy company." She nodded toward the noisy crowd. "You don't seem too thrilled with what's going on either." I smiled. "Is it noticeable?" "Only to the experienced eye." She held out her hand. "Allison Burke? Hector Landry?" I shook her hand. "Are you an acquaintance of the bride or the groom?" "Neither, to be honest." She took a sip of whiskey. "I'm here with a friend who works with Camden Price. Thought I'd keep her company." "And you are?" "I'm the father of the bride." Something flashed in her eyes. Surprise, sympathy. But it quickly disappeared. "Congratulations," she said after a pause. "A wedding is always a joyous occasion." Something in her tone made me wary, but Allison smiled. There was no but just. Shell looked around and lowered her voice. "You don't seem like someone who fits in with this company, and frankly, neither do I. And what do you do for a living, Allison?" I asked, feeling an unexpected sympathy for this straightforward woman. "I'm a managing partner at Meridian Consulting. We do crisis management for corporations." "That sounds responsible." "It is. I have to deal with the consequences of other people's mistakes and ambitions." She took another sip. "I worked with Axiom Marketing a couple of years ago after one of their key employees left." I tensed. "Axiom? That's Camden Price's company, right?" Allison nodded, not noticing my interest. "Yes, although he joined it after the incident. He's the director of development there now, right?" "As far as I know." "Yes," I answered carefully, not wanting to show how interested I was in this conversation. "I hear he has a reputation controversial," Allison continued, lowering her voice even more. "My friend Lauren, who works there now, has told some stories." Nothing that could be called illegal. But she stopped panicking, apparently remembering she was talking to the father of the bride. "I'm sorry, Mr. Landry. I shouldn't have brought it up." No, go ahead, please." I tried to keep my voice neutral. "I appreciate the honesty." Allison hesitated, but then apparently decided that once she'd started, she should finish. "There are rumors about him in marketing circles. They say he's not averse to appropriating other people's ideas. There was a story about a junior creative director who proposed a concept for a major client. Price initially rejected it and a week later presented it as his own without even changing key details. When the guy tried to defend his authorship, Price organized his dismissal allegedly for incompetence. I listened attentively, feeling my worst fears being confirmed. "And this is not an isolated incident?" I asked. Unfortunately, no. Lauren had said, "That atmosphere in Price's department was toxic, if I may say so. He creates commission between employees, pits them against each other. He can publicly humiliate them for the slightest mistake. And yet he's the sweetest, most professional person in front of clients and management." Allison suddenly faltered and blushed. Oh my God, what am I doing telling the father of the bride these things about his future son-in-law? "I'm sorry, Mr. Landry. It's unforgivable of me." I shook my head. "Don't apologize. I prefer to know the truth, however unpleasant it may be." She looked at me sympathetically. "Perhaps it's not as bad as they say. There are always enough rumors and envy of successful people in business." I nodded, though inwardly I was sure that Allison's story only confirmed what I'd felt the first time I'd met Camden. "Thank you for your candor," I said, finishing my whiskey. "I think I should get back to my daughter. It was nice to meet you, Mr. Landry." She handed me her card. "If you ever need crisis management counseling in any field." I took the card and tucked it in my pocket. Something told me it might come in handy. When I returned to the main group, I found Olivia and Camden passionately discuss the details of the wedding ceremony with some burly man. "Thirchway will be decorated with white roses and orchids imported from Thailand," Olivia said. Camden insisted that everything be perfect. "And rightly so, darling," the man replied. This was a once-in-a-lifetime event, especially with the Jamesons and the Kowalskis present. It's a chance to impress the entire business world of Louisiana. I stood back watching this conversation and feeling a growing unease. My daughter was talking about her wedding like it was a marketing campaign, not joining of two loving hearts. When I had the chance, I took Olivia aside. "Can he talk to you alone?" She glanced at Camden, who was busy talking to some important guests, and nodded. "Make it quick, Daddy. We're toasting soon." We went out onto the terrace where it was quiet and cool. The sun was already setting, coloring the sky in shades of pink and gold. "What did you want to talk about?" Olivia asked, glancing nervously at her watch. I took a deep breath, searching for words. "Olivia, are you sure this is exactly what you want? All this pomp? 250 guests, many of whom you don't even know." She frowned. "Of course, I'm sure it's going to be Thieving of the Year. Everyone's already talking about it." "I'm not talking about the wedding." I took her hand gently. "I'm talking about your marriage to Camden. Do you love him?" Her face tensed. "What kind of question is that, Papa? Of course I love him. He's smart, successful, driven." "Those are his resume, not reasons to love him," I interrupted her gently. "I've heard some things about him. The way he runs his business, the way he treats his employees." Olivia pulled her hand away. "Who did you hear it from?" "From one of those old oil man friends of yours who are jealous of today's successful businesses." "No, from people who know him from work." I decided not to mention Allison directly. "Olivia, I'm just worried about you. I want you to be happy. I will be happy." Her voice got higher. "Camden gives me everything I've ever dreamed of. Status, connections, opportunities. We're perfect for each other. What about respect, love, support?" I tried to speak softly but firmly. "Marriage isn't a business contract, Olivia." Her face turned red with anger. "You don't understand anything, Dad. The world has changed. It's all about love and respect and support. And it's expressed differently now through social status, through the opportunities we create for each other." I shook my head. "I know only one thing. If a person is capable of framing colleagues, appropriating other people's ideas, publicly humiliating subordinates, then sooner or later he will do the same to his loved ones." "Who told you that?" Her eyes narrowed. "It's all lies. Envious people always spread rumors about successful people." "Olivia, no, Dad. She held up her hand to stop me. I know what's going on. You've always been against my lifestyle. You liked it when I was a little girl who admired her engineer daddy. But I've grown up. I'm on my own path. And Camden is part of that path. I felt the wall of misunderstanding I'd hoped to break down growing back between us. I just want to keep you from making a mistake, I said quietly. The only mistake I can make now is letting your old-fashionedness and envy ruin the most important day of my life, jealousy. I was genuinely amazed. What am I jealous of? Our success, our status. She waved her hand toward that club. The fact that Camden and I are on a different level than you once were. Face it, Dad. You're stuck in the last century with your views on life and business. Her words hurt me deeper than she could have imagined. Not because they were true, but because they showed how distorted her perception had become. You're wrong, Olivia, I said calmly, but I'm not going to try to change your mind. It's your life and your choice. Exactly, she fixed her hair. And I chose Camden. If you can't be happy for me, at least don't ruin my day with your unfounded suspicions. At that moment, Camden came out onto Theater Ace, smiling radiantly. There you are. Everyone had already gathered fourth toast. His smile faded when he noticed the tension between us. Is everything all right? Of course, darling. Olivia was instantly transformed, her smile blossoming. Daddy just wanted to discuss the details of the honeymoon. In fact, he'd agreed to pay for our trip to the Maldives. I opened my mouth to object, but saw the pleading look in my daughter's eyes, and I realized that I was faced with a choice. Either to publicly refuse her and finally break our relationship, or to agree and maintain at least the appearance of family ties. Yes, I said at last, I want to give you this gift. Camden's face broke into a smile that didn't touch his eyes. That's very generous of you, Mr. Landry. Olivia and he really appreciate your support. He put his hand on Olivia's shoulder in a possessive gesture, and they went back into the hall, leaving me alone on the terrace. I stood looking out at the sunset, feeling bitterly disappointed. My attempt to reach my daughter hadn't just failed, it seemed to push her away from me even more. But that wasn't the scariest part. What scared me was that the man she was about to marry was exactly as I had imagined him to be. A manipulative man who saw her as a stepping stone to a higher position. And yet I agreed to pay for their honeymoon, not because I approved of the marriage, but because I hoped to maintain some connection with my daughter. I hoped that sooner or later she would see the true face of her chosen one. And when she did, she would need a father who would be there for her. Back in the hall, I saw Camden making a solemn speech, holding a glass of champagne. And I want to extend a special thanks to my future father-in-law, Hector Landry, who is so generously supporting us as we begin our journey together. All eyes turned to me, and I smiled strangely as he raised my glass. But there was an unsettling feeling growing inside me that this wedding would bring nothing but pain. Olivia's wedding day was surprisingly clear for Lake Charles, where it rained a lot this time of year. I took that as a good sign, even though deep down I didn't think anything good would come of the marriage. 3 months of preparation had only strengthened my suspicions about Camden. But for my daughter's sake, I kept my thoughts to myself. I put on my best suit, a dark blue tailored suit for important corporate meetings. The suit fit well, even though I'd lost a little weight in recent years. On the left lapel was a gold Gulf Petroleum badge, which wasn't given to employees who had been with the company for more than 40 years. A small detail, but for me, it is a symbol of loyalty and professionalism. Magnolia Country Club has been transformed since that pre-wedding cocktail party. The driveway was decorated with white and gold ribbons. Live statues in Greek garb stood at the main entrance, and a drone circled over the grounds, filming the arrival of guests from the air. It wasn't me. Who parked the car? A valet in white gloves took the keys to my Buick with a barely perceptible, condescending smile. Among the luxurious foreign cars, my car, though well-maintained, looked as old-fashioned as I was. At the entrance, the master of ceremonies was greeting the guests with a clipboard, checking names against the list. "Hector Landry," I said, feeling like I was trying to sneak into a private event, not my own daughter's wedding. The young man scanned the list, frowned for a moment. Then his face lit up with a fake smile. "Ah, yes, the father of the bride." "Come in, sir. The ceremony will begin in 45 minutes on the center lawn." I nodded and headed inside, feeling the stares of the other guests. Most were dressed in felatist fashions with accessories that probably cost as much as a nice car. Women in elaborate dresses with intricate hairstyles, men in perfectly fitting suits and with watches showing off their status. I knew a few of them. Influential Lake Charles businessmen I'd crossed paths with for work. But for the most part, the crowd was unfamiliar tone, and I felt like an outsider at this celebration of life. I decided to find Olivia before the ceremony. She was assigned to a special room for the bride where she was getting ready to go out. As I climbed the marble staircase to the second floor, I knocked on the door indicated by the officiant. "Come in." He heard my daughter's voice. Olivia was standing in front of the mirror in a gorgeous white dress with a stylist and makeup artist fussing around her, putting on the finishing touches. She looked dazzling, but there was tension in her eyes, which she tried to hide behind a smile. "Daddy," she turned to him, "you're here now." "How do I look?" "Beautiful," I said sincerely. "You are really the most beautiful bride I have ever seen." She smiled, but mechanically. "Thank you. This is Vera Wang." She ran her hand over her dress. "Camden knows her rep and we managed to get him off the line." Always Camden and his connections, even in a moment like this. "Olivia," I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "Can I talk to you in private?" She glanced at her team of stylists and nodded. "Give us 5 minutes, please." When they came out, I took my daughter's hands. "Are you sure this is what you want? It's not too late to change things." Her face instantly tensed up. "Daddy, we've talked about this. I love Camden. We're perfect for each other. I just want to make sure you're marrying for the right reasons. Not because of status or connections, but because you really can't imagine your life without this man." Olivia released her hands. "You never understood my ambition, Dad. To you, success is a steady job and a house in a decent neighborhood. For me, it's more than that. Camden shares my goals, understands my aspirations." I wanted to say more, but at that moment, the door swung open and Camden walked into the room in his designer tuxedo. "Oh, I'm sorry." He pretended to be embarrassed. "I didn't realize you weren't alone, dear." "The groom shouldn't see the bride before the ceremony," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "It's bad luck." Camden laughed, but his eyes remained cold. "Olivia and I aren't superstitious, Hector. We're modern people who create our own luck, not wait for it, from fate." He walked over to Olivia and kissed her cheek. "You look stunning, darling. I came to tell you that the Kowalskis had arrived." A Hully delegation. Olivia instantly perked up. "All 3 of them? Better yet, 4. Jeffrey's little brother is here too." "That's great," Olivia exclaimed. "Their investment fund is just looking for new projects." I watched this exchange of remarks and felt the chasm between my daughter and me grow. For them, the wedding was not the joining of 2 loving hearts, but a business event with lucrative contacts. "I should probably go take my seat," I said, realizing that my conversation with Olivia was interrupted and unlikely to resume. Of course, Hector Camden smiled. "I'll see you at the ceremony." As I left, I heard them discussing which of the important guests they should be sure to talk to during the reception. The ceremony was lavish and carefully choreographed, like a theatrical performance. A live string quartet played a modern rendition of the classics. 6 bridesmaids in matching champagne-colored dresses and an equal number of the groom's friends in tuxedos stood on either side of an archway decorated with exotic orchids. Figists, about 250 people, sat in white chairs arranged in perfect rows on the center lawn. I took a seat in the front row as I was supposed to be the father of the bride. The priest, a young man with a trendy beard and designer glasses, spoke about love and partnership in terms that sounded like it was describing a successful startup. Olivia and Camden exchanged vows that sounded like well-rehearsed presentations rather than promises from the heart. When the ceremony was over, guests moved into a huge banquet tent. Inside, everything glowed with luxury dark crystal chandeliers, snow, white tablecloths, exquisite floral arrangements on every table. I was seated at the head table with Camden's parents and a few of the immediate family members. Warren and Vivian Price, a prim couple in their 60s, barely graced me with a dozen sentences the entire evening. Dinner consisted of 6 courses, each served with a particular wine. I barely touched my food as I watched Olivia and Camden move from one group of guests to the next, exchanging pleasantries and posing for pictures. Everything looked as perfect as the cover of a glossy magazine, but I felt like I was the only one who could see falseness behind that glossy facade. After the main courses, it was time for toasts. I gave a prepared speech, trying to sound sincere and warm. It talked about how proud I was of Olivia, how I wished her happiness in her marriage. I kept my doubts and worries to myself. The guests applauded politely, but I could see that many of them were just bored, waiting to get back to business. Camden gave his toast full of pathetic phrases about the future success and prosperity of their union. Not a word about love, just accomplishments and plans. Olivia looked at him with an admiration that broke my heart. After the formal part of the banquet, the dancing began. I sat at the table watching the newlyweds open the ball with a perfectly choreographed waltz. Then other couples joined them and the dance floor filled with guests. I decided to go out for some fresh air. The tent, despite the air conditioning, seemed stuffy and the music too loud. The magnolias terraces and gardens were decorated with garlands of lights, creating a romantic atmosphere. It was quieter here, and I could catch my breath. Standing at the railing of the terrace, I heard voices coming from a gazebo nearby. One of them was Camden's. Not wanting to eavesdrop, I was about to leave, but the next phrase drew me to my seat. I can't believe a woman as sophisticated as Olivia has such a provincial father, Camden said, contempt evident in his voice. An ex-junior, Yaukno, lives in the same house for 40 years, wears a watch he got for his seniority, an absolute dinosaur. There was laughter from several men. I froze, unable to move. And those old-fashioned values of his, Camden continued, clearly getting a taste for them. Real work, honest labor, reputation is more important than money. Nonsense from the century. Fortunately, Olivia had long since outgrown that nonsense. And if there were any vestiges, I'll eradicate them quickly. Laughter again. Even louder now. Speaking of money, another voice said, "He paid for your honeymoon, didn't he?" "You bet he did," Camden chuckled. "The old man's sitting on a pretty penny. Olivia says he's pathologically frugal. Lives like a lowly clerk, but he's got over $1 million in his accounts. The honeymoon's just the beginning. I think we can convince him to invest in a few of our projects." I felt the blood rush to my face, not from shame, from anger. My worst suspicions were confirmed, but hearing my daughter discuss my finances with this man was unbearably painful. I should have walked away, but instead I took a few steps forward and found myself at the entrance to the gazebo. Camden stood surrounded by 4 men in expensive suits. whiskey glasses in hand. When he saw me, he froze and then a fake smile appeared on his face. "Hector, what a surprise." "We were just talking about you, I heard," I said calmly. Every word. There was an awkward silence. Camden's friends looked at each other, clearly unsure how to react. One of them muttered something about needing to find his wife and quickly retreated. The others followed suit, leaving Camden and me alone. "Listen, Hector," he began when we were alone. "It was just a conversation between friends. A few drinks, a few jokes. No need to take it seriously." "It wasn't a joke," I replied, surprised at my own calmness. "You really mean it, and apparently my daughter shares your opinion of me." "Olivia loves you," he said, "UNCONVINCINGL. It's just that. Your outlook on life a little outdated, but that's natural for your generation." Olivia came out onto the terrace at that moment. She spotted us quickly and headed toward the gazebo. "There you are," she exclaimed with feigned joy. "I've been looking for you both. The cake cutting is coming up." She looked at our faces and her smile faded. "What's going on?" "Your husband was just telling his friends what a dinosaur I am with outdated values," I said bluntly. "And how you plan to extort money from me for your projects." Olivia turned pale but quickly pulled herself together. "Dad, I'm sure you misunderstood. Camden never said such things. Not only did he talk, but he laughed with his friends. And you, as you understand it, discussed my finances with him." She cast a quick glance at Camden, looking for support. "It was just a conversation," Camden interjected more confidently. "And yes, we were talking about possible investments. What's the big deal? Any father wants to help his daughter and her husband get back on their feet. I've already helped you by paying for this extravagant wedding and your honeymoon," I replied. "But you seem to think of me as a cash cow." "Daddy," Olivia exclaimed, "how can you say that in our wedding day?" By now, our conversation had attracted the attention of the other guests. Several people came out onto the terrace and watched curiously. Camden noticed this and decided to take the offensive. "Hector," he said loudly so that everyone could hear, "I realize that it is difficult for you to accept modern realities, but please don't spoil this day with your suspicions and resentments." "They're not suspicions," I replied, feeling a lump come up in my throat. "I heard every word you said about how you plan to eradicate what's left of my values from Olivia, about how you plan to use my money." A small crowd had formed around us. I noticed some of the guests were taking pictures on their phones. Camden realized the situation was getting out of hand and decided to call it a day. "I think you should leave," he said icily. "You're in no condition to be at a gala. Maybe it's the alcohol, maybe it's your age, but you're making an inappropriate snap." "Camden's right, Dad." Olivia joined in to my deep disappointment. "You need to calm down. Maybe it's best to go home and get some rest." I looked at my daughter, trying to find some understanding or sympathy in her eyes, but all I saw was fear. Not for me, but for how this situation looked in the eyes of her new important acquaintances. "Get out," Camden suddenly shouted, losing the rest of his composure. "I don't want you here with your old-fashioned lectures and suspicions. We are building a new life, and you are a relic of the past." There was silence in the tent. All eyes were on us. I waited for Olivia to stand up for me, to say a word in my defense, but she just stood next to Camden, clutching his arm, and smiled strainedly, as if this were just an awkward situation to be handled with dignity. In that moment, I realized that I had finally lost my daughter. She had made her choice, and that choice was not in me favor. "Well," I said quietly, but in the silence everyone could hear me, "I won't interfere with your celebration." I turned and walked away, keeping my back straight and my head up, even though everything was crumbling inside. As I passed the guests, I saw a mixture of curiosity, embarrassment, and pity on their faces. No one stopped me or said a word of encouragement. As I left Magnolia, I already knew that I would not let this humiliation go unpunished, not out of petty revenge, but because people like Camden should get what they deserve. And if my daughter couldn't see his true colors, I would show them to her myself, even if it was painful for both of us. I got home well past midnight. I sat in a chair in the living room without turning on the light and stared into the darkness for a long time. The humiliation was burning me inside, but it hurt even more to realize that Olivia hadn't stood up for me. Her strange smile when Camden had ordered me to get out stood before my eyes like an indictment of all my parenting failures. What had I done wrong? Where had I gone wrong in raising her? Or was it not me, but the fact that the modern world encouraged such values, ostentatious connections, status at any cost? I took out a bottle of Glenfiddich 20 years old, which I saved for special occasions, and poured myself a double shot. The alcohol burned my throat, but brought no relief. The first impulse was simple and primitive, to call the bank in the morning and cancel all payments for the honeymoon. Let them feel what it was like to have their plans ruined. Booty realized that such a move would be seen as a petty revenge on the old man.